Thank you so much, James. There's been a mixed up there. Well, we'll be discussing the class of 2021, having experienced prolonged online learning in the past week and the COVID-19 testing, the school closures. Now research indicates that about 30.6% of students had thoughts of suicide in the past 12 months, with about 16.6% reported to have made a suicide plan and 2.4% had attempted suicide. And perhaps one of the triggers, James, could possibly be exam disappointment. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the common causes of exam failure.
Yeah, exam failure is a big pressure point for students. We go through however many years, 12 to 14 years of schooling, focusing on an end result that then dictates somewhat our future opportunities. And so there's a lot of hype and a lot of pressure that sits on the shoulder of these students as they reach their final exams in their school career. And often that pressure brings with it the resulting mental health issues that can occur, thoughts of suicide, and for students that think they're perhaps underperforming or that these opportunities will be thwarted in the future. It is really sad. Our kind of position, especially from my organization, is that whilst these exams are important and they mustn't be discounted, they are not the be all and the end all. And I think for these students that are in that position, the best response that stakeholders and stewards of their careers can do is just respond with encouragement and support, and just set them on a path that is not dictated to by the result of these exams per se.
Right. Now, James, what options are available for parents to consider in ensuring that their children ace the second chance?
So the second chance program has been put in place to help learners to essentially have a second chances at their final exams, and it's a fantastic system that is there. But what we really look at on this is making sure that it's treated with the right approach. So often learners who are needing to go into the second chance program will need to focus on fundamentals and foundations first and get those right before considering taking the second chance. So we often recommend from us here at Advantage Learn that you really, as parents, consider your options and make sure that you don't rush into it too soon with your learners that you're guiding, because it really is important to focus back on where are the gaps, so that the next time that the student attempts it, it is then with a better foundation and a more probability for success. So we say, firstly, consider your options on looking for the gaps in the foundations, and then secondly, consider the timing of that exam. So what are the options to help learners in this regard? There are many providers, including ourselves, who offer real support especially into the hard-hitting subjects that students often need to rewrite: math, science, etc. And we offer those support structures to kind of help them to achieve better in their second chance exam. But there are also other foundational infrastructures around this that they can get better foundations in these subjects. So it really is go to the drawing board, get a learning plan together, think about your timelines, and then look out to online educators, to in-person educators who are offering classes, etc., and see what's available.
You know, James, my parents always told me that consider the first day of school as exam preparation. We may be in January, but we should treat that, this particular period as preparing for the examination in October or November or whatever the case may be. So having said that, how can learners then best prepare for the first term and increase their pass mark?
Sure, that's a really, really good observation. I think your parents were spot on there. We need to treat our schooling as a year program. We can't think that we can ease into the academic year and then catch up in the third term to write our exams. So advice from our side is to develop a plan for your year. Look at what your goals are with your learning. Look at the subjects that you're doing and the timetable, and then enter into the year with a realistic plan of how you actually are going to study through that year to ensure your success at the end. I think too often we neglect that pre-planning, so that when we come to the first term and day one, we kind of just hope that everything's gonna fit together. So if you want your term one to be successful, that then results in you having a successful year, my recommendation is work with your teachers, your parents, any support structures you have to develop a realistic plan that then you can stick to right from the get-go, because that will radically improve your probability for getting a successful mark or result at the end of the year, if that's what you're looking for.
And it is such institutions as yours that has jumped on board to assist. So let's talk about the role that Advantage Learn is playing to ensure that learners thrive and excel academically.
Yes, so we here at AdvantageLearn.com, what we really focus into is we're passionate about helping learners in Africa specifically become agents in the fourth industrial revolution and not objects. And how we think we can really contribute to this is by helping them with exam and test preparation and STEM subject performance. So what we do is we really focus into the exam and test preparation in very significant subjects that often need the additional layer of support, maths and science. For those students that are going through to university, we're the largest provider of NBT preparation courses to help them write that NBT test that they might be required to write in their matric year or before entry into the university. And then we really focus very strongly on resources in these subjects, and we do that in an online way that we then really create an ecosystem of learning both in person and through digital resources. So we've got resources, for example, for maths covering the full high school syllabus from grade 8 to 12. Everything you need to learn, we've got and covered, and we work with schools and individuals to utilize those resources to really help them achieve the results they need in their exams.
And I suppose we can't entirely get rid of in-person learning. So how then is Advantage Learn bridging this gap between blending in-person and online teaching?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a great observation too. A lot of our peers look at Advantage Learn and say you're a digital education provider. We're actually not. We're an educator provider, and we really are big believers in the right medium and modality for the learner, and that could be in person or that could be online. And so what we really are doing in that space is trying to create a really helpful ecosystem that bridges the gap between physical learning and digital learning. And we actually released something just post the COVID lockdowns, because we realized that schools would have great challenges flipping to the digital side and the virtual learning. So we offered our maths resources out and science resources out for free over that period. And through that, what we've really created in the learnings to help schools and individuals is a way to connect the digital resources in a supporting and supplementary way to the physical. And that's through something that we call the Neo series. And essentially, we realized over these last few years that we can't neglect the physical teaching layer. It needs to be considered in the mix. Just a quick one, James.
Several new subjects are expected to be trialed and introduced in the coming year, including entrepreneurship and coding and robotics. Just quickly share your thoughts on these subjects.
These subjects are great. Big supporter, we've got economic challenges in South Africa we need to solve, and the only way we can do that is through entrepreneurship. So the more entrepreneurial learning we can do earlier on, the better. The likes of Raise Corp and Startup School are really doing fantastic work in this space. And doing that earlier with students creates that entrepreneurial thinking, and it's really, really helpful in that regard. Moving over to the others, robotics, etc., also a big supporter, so long as we don't forget that the skill set required in some of these subjects requires a base of knowledge in core academic subjects. So it's not a a way for us to forget
Sure.
that we still need to produce students that have high STEM subject caliber to be able to enable them to be successful in careers that are these new skills like robotics, data science, etc.
All right, James, lovely chatting to you, man. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That's the co-founder and managing director at Advantage Learn, James Lewis, and he's been speaking to us about a positive start to the schooling year and how learners can actually improve their marks during the supplementary examinations.